Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis updated commodities, work our way through dollar yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinions as we go. If you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com, where I dive deeper into all these topics, looking for potential investment opportunities, and you can follow along what I'm doing during this bull market. All right, guys, so let's dive in here. Let's take a look and see what's going on today. We've got the DXY. We still have that momentum to the downside, but today we did get some yield, or this is dollar going up pressure. This could be a short-term reversal pattern or something that does consolidate sideways. And then we'll have to see what occurs after the consolidation. Generally speaking, consolidations upward are bearish. That's what we've been seeing in this stair-step pattern lower. And it does look like we are ready or prime to do a little bit of a consolidation here. So we were up 0.38% for the dollar. We were also up in yields. 2-year yield up about 2%. There we are moving sideways, and we can even adjust as needed. There could be some sort of structure that we build here and continue sideways. It is facing upward, which means we could roll back out eventually. But that's the 2-year yield at the moment. It is, well, it's not really a bullish engulfing. It was very close to a bullish engulfing. Bullish engulfings are generally patterns that move upward. But we'll have to monitor it at this time. We have broken through the trend line here. Now, we could get a return move where we break down, come back up, and then fall over again. Something like that could occur. 10-year yield up a little bit, about 1.5%, and that does look like it wants to go higher in the short term. It is consolidating. We can obviously draw these patterns out as they come, and we'll see what this looks like over time. And we have broken the structure to the downside. We'll see what this looks like and if we get a return move up before heading lower again. And the 30-year yield, same thing. We're up 1.35%. We've got a breakout retest, and we've been tracking lower with a little bit of short-term increase of yields. The TYX-TNX ratio, slightly lower, but overall, the trend has been up. So the trend is upward. This is most likely just some sort of consolidation back against the trend in the short term. When this goes up, precious metals outperform. TLT bond prices down about 1% today with those yields going up. Bond prices are down. And TLT was down 1%. There we are pulling on back today. Again, we have broken this to the upside of this downtrend. If it wants to show up, there should be a trend line going across. And I do think that will continue higher over time. So none of the trends are broken, at least not yet. Everything still looks intact for the previous move so far. The 2 and 10 was up. It inverted today about 0.5%, where the 2-year went up more than the 10-year. The yield curve inverted. And we are still above the 1-to-1 relationship there. That's the key factor that we don't want to get below for a potential recession. And I'm sure they're trying to manipulate the heck out of this to keep it up. We've got gold down $29 an ounce. We do have a little bit of a wick at the bottom. Usually, if it's really strong selling pressure, you close towards the bottom of the wick. We do have a little bit of a bounce today. There's the downward move, and then there's the bounce higher, moving sideways. We are trying to break that trend line in the short term. But overall, it still looks okay, and we just had a big pullback day today. Could there be further follow through? We'll have to see tomorrow and see what this trading looks like. Silver down about 2%. That does look like a bearish engulfing. Maybe we consolidate sideways or lower in the short term. But longer term, I think everything looks good for a move higher, 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 higher. And platinum down about 2%. we're seeing selling pressure across the board here. Does have a bearish engulfing. We could go down a little bit. Same with palladium, but in all honesty, guys, it's a bearish engulfing there. I don't play the short term. I just play these long-term moves, and when things get cheap, that's when I acquire. And this is a pretty good area down here to be acquiring platinum. That's the cheapest of the group, and will eventually break this to the upside, in my opinion. GDX down 2.44%. There we are, but momentum is still to the upside from these charts. Yes, we could get a short-term pullback, very well possible. And longer term, everything looks good. BXJ and SILJ, all the similar things. So in the short term, yeah, we could get a pullback. Very possible. I don't play the short term. I play the long term, and everything looks good on the long term. And the yield curve is driving all of that. XEU to gold ratio, we are down 1.2% or so, but we are still above the trend line, the broken trend line here. And we are still at a very low level. Good entry point for a long-term investor, in my opinion. Crude oil up about 1.4% today. Is this a bottom? That's difficult to say. We're still squeezing in this corner here. And just to let you know, there are worries about a potential slowdown, recession, the yield curve's inverted, all of those things that are not tailwinds for crude oil are behind it. And I'm sure there's people wondering if OPEC will continue the cuts forward or not. But we're at 73-ish dollars barrel, which is very cheap. And from a ratio perspective, crude oil is very cheap in relationship to gold at the time. We've got TTF gas slightly lower, and that does look like we could continue lower in the short term. A little bit medium term, looks good like it's bottoming here. Eventually go sideways or work its way on up. Natural gas in America down about 5%. A little bit more of a selling pressure day to day, but again, let's back out and get off this. It does look like a shoulder, head, shoulder could potentially be developing here, or you draw it across that way. It doesn't really matter which way you draw it. Could be a potential shoulder, head, shoulder that is developing. We've got XOP. Yeah, you know me, getting some selling pressure there. It looks pretty bearish on the weekly that we could pull back further in the short term, and that opinion remains. Whenever you have these steep facing things, we could easily get a sell-off here in the short term. OIH doing the same thing. I do think we could get a sell-off here to the downside in the short term, and we could see a bigger pullback for energy service and energy. Newcastle coal futures down just a little bit, but again, I don't worry about day-to-day movements. I still think this will work its way on up or go sideways, facing further in time. Profitable Uranium Trust up 2%. Looks like it's being held up at that support zone, and we'll see if we can move into the upside. We've got uranium futures pricing down just slightly. This could head lower in the short term. We've got URA down 2.5%, and this looks like it wants to roll over. As expected, this is just flag pattern that will probably roll over, and we'll see how far it sells off. Same thing with Uranium and URNJ. It's the same pattern. We got copper down 1.3%. It is a bearish engulfing. We could easily head lower here in the short term. We got copper here. Getting a little bit of selling pressure with copper. So this is the copper ETF, COPX. And we'll probably bounce around here for a little while. Iron ore, flat. I know it's been weak demand in China, but it still looks good to go higher. We've got a downward facing continuation pattern there on the short term. Aluminum down just a little bit. It's just continuing to work its way on sideways, bouncing between. Got resistance up here and support down here. Been going back and forth. Nickel up 0.7%, looking a little bit better. And we could easily put together a move higher here in the short term. We've got MU ETF That's broken the downtrend falling wedge right on support, and everything looks good to continue higher. I've got a little bit of selling pressure today. Maybe we move back a little bit and sideways, but overall, it looks good to go higher. We're sitting on top of the pattern. Emerging markets down 1.2%, stronger dollar, stronger yields. It's going to impact all these rate sensitive sectors in a negative way. So EEM down, just moving sideways on regional banks. It kind of took that in stride, those increasing rates and dollar strength. TAN lower, doesn't like the yields. Same with lithium, same with REMX, all lower today. This one's got a bearish engulfing. We could head a little bit lower in the short term. Baltic Dry Index up. We're right at that support region, and it is holding at this time. That doesn't look too bad. We've got XHB down just a little bit today. Still looks good to go higher. Momentum still to the upside. No reversal candlesticks or anything like that. We've got Russell 2000 selling off about 1% today, and we're right above support. The support level is this level here. We've got the S&P 500 down 0.9%. That is a bearish engulfing. Is this going to turn and rip to the downside? That is what I'm watching. Can this be the return move here and then the selling pressure move? Is it the beginning of the big move lower? That's where my head is at, guys. That's where my head is at. NASDAQ, same thing. You squeeze into a corner up here, false breakout, breaks to the downside, struggles to get back up, right into a bearish engulfing. That looks good to go down. Be careful because this can drag everything with it. This is a stronger move to the downside. SMCI also getting selling pressure. It's a bearish engulfing. Looks like we could go lower in the short term. Looks like crap. We've got NVIDIA also getting the bearish engulfing today, and that does look like we could go lower in the short term. There's the bearish engulfings all popping out all over the place here. Does not look good. Big red army showing up. Selling pressure. We've got BTC down 1.5%. That still is holding on and looks good. Ethereum down a little bit, still holding on and looks good to continue higher. So that's what we've got for today, guys. Some selling pressure in the overall markets there. So give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you're interested. Mayday coupon code is still active. Looks like the overall markets, it could top here. And that's what I'd be watching for. Other sectors, we could get dragged down with this. If this sells off, yield curve is inverted, and we need to watch to see if the yield curve uninverts. The unemployment rate, we can look at that real quick. So here is the unemployment rate, unrate, and that is coming on up. If that continues to go higher, that's generally a precursor to a slowdown in the market. So that's all I've got for today. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.